Welcome to Moments in History channel. Ever wondered how China, one of the world's oldest continuous civilizations, came to be? The story begins thousands of years ago with 5 foundational dynasties that shaped everything. This is the epic tale of the Xia, Shang, Zhou, Qin, and Han dynasties. Let's travel back in time and uncover the roots of ancient China. Our journey starts around 2070 BCE with the Xia Dynasty. Now, the Xia is a bit of a mystery, partly legendary, but it's traditionally considered China's very first dynasty. Imagine small tribal communities living along the Yellow River, gradually coming together to form an organized state. This was a monumental shift. The Xia period marks the beginning of hereditary rule, where power was passed down within a family. They were early pioneers in agriculture, learning to cultivate the land and create a stable food supply. They also began working with metal, a huge technological leap. While we don't have definitive proof of the Xia, archaeological sites like Erlitou have unearthed incredible artifacts, sophisticated pottery and bronze vessels that hint at a powerful and complex society. These discoveries suggest that the legends of the Xia might just be rooted in a very real, very advanced early civilization. The Xia laid the first stone, setting the stage for everything that was to come. Next up, we have the Shang Dynasty, which ruled from around 1600 to 1046 BCE. This is where history truly comes alive, because the Shang is the first dynasty we have solid written evidence for. And what evidence it is! Archaeologists have discovered thousands of oracle bones, turtle shells and animal bones inscribed with the earliest form of Chinese writing. The Shang kings would ask questions about harvests, battles, and the future, and diviners would interpret the cracks that formed when the bones were heated. These inscriptions give us a direct window into their world, their worries, and their beliefs. The Shang were masters of bronze casting. They created intricate and beautiful bronze vessels for rituals to honor their ancestors and gods. These weren't just decorative items. They were symbols of power and authority. The Shang also built impressive urban centers with palaces and temples at their heart. They were a formidable military power, using chariots in warfare, which gave them a significant advantage on the battlefield. Society was structured around kinship networks, with the king at the top, ruling through a combination of military might and religious authority. The Shang Dynasty wasn't just a political entity, it was a cultural powerhouse that established core elements of Chinese religious practices and political structures that would endure for centuries. Following the Shang, we enter the Zhou Dynasty, which began in 1046 BCE and lasted for nearly 800 years, making it the longest-lasting dynasty in Chinese history. The Zhou's rise to power introduced one of the most influential political and philosophical concepts in Chinese history, the mandate of heaven. This idea was revolutionary. It proposed that rulers were chosen by a divine power, or heaven, to govern justly. If a ruler became corrupt or incompetent, heaven would withdraw its mandate, and the people had the right to overthrow him. This concept wasn't just a clever justification for their own conquest of the Shang, it became the guiding principle for dynastic change in China for millennia. The Zhou period is split into 2 main parts, the Western Zhou and the Eastern Zhou. The Western Zhou was a time of relative stability and expansion. But over time, the king's power weakened, and regional lords grew more independent. This led to the Eastern Zhou period, which is further divided into the Spring and Autumn period and the Warring States period. This era was chaotic, marked by constant conflict between competing states. Yet, out of this turmoil came an explosion of intellectual creativity. It was the golden age of Chinese philosophy, giving birth to the 100 schools of thought. This is when thinkers like Confucius developed his ideas on ethics, family, and good governance. It's when Laozi is said to have written the foundational texts of Taoism, advocating for harmony with nature. And it's when legalism emerged, arguing for strict laws and state control. These philosophies would profoundly shape Chinese society and government for thousands of years. The Zhou's legacy is immense, not just for its longevity, but for the intellectual and political foundations. It laid during a time of both great chaos and great creativity. After centuries of division during the late Zhou dynasty, one state rose to conquer them all: the Qin. The Qin dynasty, though incredibly short-lived, lasting only from 221 to 206 BCE, was one of the most transformative periods in Chinese history. Its leader, Yingzheng, declared himself Qin Shi Huang, the first emperor of China. His goal was simple and audacious: to unify China once and for all and create a centralized empire that would last forever. To achieve this, Qin Shi Huang implemented a series of sweeping reforms based on legalist principles. He abolished the old feudal system and divided the empire into administrative districts, governed by officials he appointed directly. This broke the power of the regional lords and centralized authority in his hands. He didn't stop there. He standardized everything. The writing system was unified so people from different regions could communicate. Currency was standardized, making trade easier across the vast empire. Even the axles of carts were made a standard width to fit the ruts in the new roads he built. Qin Shi Huang was also a master builder, though his methods were often brutal. He commissioned massive infrastructure projects, including a vast network of roads and canals to connect the empire. Most famously, he ordered the connection of existing defensive walls to form the first version of the Great Wall, designed to protect the northern frontier from nomadic tribes. And of course, there's his spectacular tomb, guarded by the now famous Terracotta Army, an entire army of life-sized clay soldiers, horses, and chariots built to protect him in the afterlife. But his rule was harsh. He suppressed all opposing philosophies, famously ordering the burning of books and the execution of scholars. This ruthlessness led to widespread resentment, and soon after his death, the Qin dynasty collapsed. Yet its legacy was permanent. The Qin created the template for a unified imperial China that would be followed for the next 2,000 years. Out of the ashes of the Qin rebellion rose the Han Dynasty, which would rule from 206 BCE to 220 CE. The Han is considered a golden age in Chinese history, a period of immense prosperity, stability, and cultural achievement. The Han rulers learned from the mistakes of the Qin. While they kept the centralized administrative structure, they softened the harsh legalist policies and blended them with the more humane principles of Confucianism. Confucianism became the official state ideology, emphasizing education, ethics, and respect for authority. This led to the creation of the civil service examination system. For the first time, government officials were selected based on merit and their knowledge of Confucian classics, rather than just their family connections. This created a highly educated and skilled bureaucracy that helped govern the vast empire effectively. The Han Dynasty also saw incredible technological innovation. Papermaking was invented, providing a cheap and easy medium for writing and record-keeping. Scientists invented the seismograph to detect earthquakes and made significant advances in astronomy and medicine. Under the Han, the empire expanded its territory, and trade flourished along the legendary Silk Road. This network of trade routes connected China to Central Asia, India, and even the Roman Empire. Silk, spices, and other goods traveled west, while new ideas, technologies, and cultures flowed into China. This era was so influential that the majority ethnic group in China today still refers to themselves as the Han people. The Han Dynasty solidified the imperial structure created by the Qin and established a cultural and political identity that has defined China ever since. So there you have it. From the legendary beginnings of the Xia to the golden age of the Han, these 5 dynasties, Xia, Shang, Zhou, Qin, and Han, forged the very foundations of Chinese civilization. They gave China its writing, its philosophies, its imperial structure, and its enduring cultural identity. Each dynasty built upon the last, creating a powerful and resilient civilization that would continue to evolve and shape world history for millennia. Their legacy is not just a story from the distant past. It's a living history that continues to resonate in the world today. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this deep dive into ancient history, don't forget to like, subscribe to Moments in History channel, and hit that notification bell so you won't miss our next video. See you next time.